I promise this is 9,000% the last time we are talking about disturbing movies on this channel. At least for this year. Welcome to Top 2 Day. Today, we are all here to check out the ultimate final list of all-time most disturbing films of the 20th century. In the previous video, we already talked about the best disturbing movies of the 21st century, and now it is logical to look at the origins of it all. To be honest, the most insane movies are here. The boys and girls were really experimental back then, so take a seat, make yourself a tea, and ask yourself, what is your favorite disturbing movie of the 20th century? Write it in the comments below. Number 13, The Viking, 1931. In the early 1930s, cinema was going through a revolution. Silent films were dying, sound was still experimental, and no one really knew how far this new medium could go. Most studios played it safe, but The Viking did the opposite. It became one of the first sound films ever shot entirely on location, not in a studio, but in the freezing Arctic waters off the coast of Newfoundland. The filmmakers wanted absolute realism. The story was inspired by seal hunters who worked in brutal, icy conditions. But instead of recreating that world, the crew went straight into it. Actors, cameras, and fragile sound recording equipment were dragged onto moving ice and stormy seas. Nothing about this production was safe. The most dangerous decision came next. Many scenes were filmed aboard a real sealing ship, the SS Viking. The vessel carried experienced sailors and large quantities of dynamite used to break through thick ice. Standard practice for sealers, a nightmare for a film crew. On March 15, 1931, disaster struck. A fire broke out on board. Within moments, the flames reached the explosives. The resulting blast ripped the ship apart, throwing men into the freezing ocean. Those who survived the explosion faced another enemy, hypothermia. By the time rescue arrived, nearly 30 people were dead, including the film's director. And yet, the story didn't end there. The surviving footage was later assembled into a completed film. The Viking was released the same year and became a success. It's disturbing not because of what it shows on screen, but because it was paid for in real blood. You can find this movie on YouTube for free. Number 12, Peeping Tom, 1960. When I was putting this list together, I honestly hesitated for a long time over this spot. The obvious choice would have been Eraserhead. Abstract, nightmarish, endlessly uncomfortable. But Peeping Tom is available in 4K, so honestly, why are we even debating? Released in 1960, Peeping Tom was decades ahead of its time. At a glance, it looks like a simple psychological thriller, but what Michael Powell actually created was something far more disturbing. This film forces the viewer into the mind of a killer, not metaphorically, literally. The main character, Mark Lewis, murders women while filming them, capturing their fear in their final moments. And Powell makes a terrifying decision. He aligns the camera, our camera, with Mark's. We don't just watch the murders, we participate in the act of looking. That's what makes Peeping Tom so unsettling. At the time of its release, the film was considered so shocking that it destroyed Powell's career. Critics called it immoral, perverse, dangerous. Today, it's recognized as a masterpiece, but its impact hasn't softened. In many ways, Peeping Tom predicted modern horror, found footage, killer POV, the obsession with recording violence. It asks an uncomfortable question. Are we disturbed by the killer or by the fact that we want to watch? Number 11. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. When you think of raw, relentless horror, Tobe Hooper's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre stands in a class of its own. This wasn't just a movie, it was an experience designed to make audiences physically uncomfortable. Hooper and his team didn't have a big budget, but what they lacked in money, they made up for in audacity. Shot in abandoned Texas houses under oppressive summer heat, the actors endured real dust, sweat, and grime, and the camera captured it all. Leatherface, with his mask stitched from human skin, wasn't just a villain. He was a symbol of pure, unfiltered chaos lurking in the real world. The genius of Hooper was in what he didn't show. Most of the film's terror comes from suggestion, shadows, screams, and the sudden clanging of that chainsaw echoing through the rural countryside. By letting the audience fill in the blanks, he created a nightmare that's far more disturbing than any explicit gore. And the story behind the story is just as fascinating. Hooper was inspired by the crimes of Ed Gein, a real-life murderer whose grotesque acts had shocked the nation. But Hooper didn't aim for a biography. He wanted to capture the grimy, tactile terror of human evil and make it feel immediate, like it could be happening next door. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre became a blueprint for gritty, realistic horror. Its influence can be seen in everything from modern slasher films to the most uncomfortable indie horrors. And even decades later, the film still feels alive, raw, shocking, and completely unrelenting. If you thought you could watch a horror film and relax, this one doesn't give you that luxury. Number 10, Audition, 1999. When I was putting this list together, I really hesitated over this spot. I wanted to include something from Asia, a film that could bring a different kind of horror compared to the Western entries. There were strong contenders: Tetsuo, the Iron Man, or Flower of Flesh and Blood from the Guinea Pig series. Pure body horror, extreme gore, and shock. But honestly, most of those are for a very narrow audience. Almost no one could sit through them, and the meaning, if there is any, often gets lost in sheer visual brutality. That's why I went with Audition, 1999. A slow-burn psychological thriller that starts like a quiet romantic drama and then, piece by piece, unfolds into one of the most disturbing finales in Japanese cinema history. The story begins innocently. A widower named Shigeharu Aoyama, lonely and still mourning his late wife, is encouraged by a friend to hold a fake audition to find a new potential partner. What starts as a harmless setup soon takes a dark turn when he meets Asami, a seemingly shy and delicate woman. At first, she's enchanting, the perfect dream woman. But as the story unfolds, small oddities begin to surface. Strange behavior, subtle hints of violence, and a past that Shigeharu could never have imagined. Without giving away every twist, the tension builds slowly, carefully, scene by scene. The final act shatters the calm entirely, revealing a shocking, terrifying truth about Asami that flips the entire narrative on its head. It's not just about fear. It's about the dread, the anticipation, the creeping realization that something is horribly wrong. Audition is disturbing not because of excessive gore throughout, but because it expertly manipulates the audience's expectations, playing with trust, vulnerability, and the horrifying consequences of underestimating someone. It's psychological terror at its finest, quiet, precise, and unforgettable. Number 9. A Clockwork Orange, 1971. For this spot, it was impossible to ignore Kubrick's audacious adaptation of Anthony Burgess's 1962 novel. This isn't just disturbing for shock value. It's a meticulously crafted exploration of free will, morality, and human violence. Kubrick took Burgess's dystopian vision and amplified it with his signature cinematic precision, creating a film that is both visually striking and ethically unsettling. The story follows Alex DeLarge, a charming but terrifying teenager who leads a gang indulging in ultra-violence, assaults, theft, and acts of sexual cruelty in a near-future dystopia. Burgess's novel provided a darkly satirical and linguistic playground, inventing slang, nadsat, to immerse readers in Alex's twisted perspective. Kubrick kept this essence, translating the bizarre language and worldview to the screen while adding his visual flair. The true horror comes after Alex is caught by the authorities and subjected to the Ludovico technique, a brutal aversion therapy designed to condition him against violence. The treatment strips him of free will, turning him into a clockwork orange, organic on the outside, mechanical on the inside. The film forces viewers to grapple with questions Burgess posed in the book. Is it better to be evil by choice, or good as a programmed machine? Kubrick's adaptation is visually iconic. The ultra-violent scenes are stylized with bright colors and classical music, creating a surreal, hypnotic dissonance that makes the brutality all the more disturbing. Unlike simple gore, the horror here is psychological and philosophical, a testament to both the novel and the filmmaker's vision. A Clockwork Orange remains unforgettable because it challenges the audience's morality and empathy. It's a story about violence, control, and the fragility of freedom, and its influence on cinema and pop culture endures to this day. Number 8. Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, 1986. You might know Michael Rooker later as Merle Dixon in The Walking Dead or Yondu in Guardians of the Galaxy. But back in '86, he played Henry, a guy so cold, so casual about murder, it actually sticks with you. Henry drifts through life, killing strangers and acquaintances alike, often for no reason at all. The film follows his random, chaotic days, showing the banality of his violence. There's no heroic framing, no music to guide your emotions, just Henry, his crimes, and the grim reality around him. What really cements its place on this list is how it strips murder down to something horrifyingly real. You see the planning, the aftermath, and the emotional emptiness behind each act. Unlike other films that rely on jump scares or excessive gore, this one gets under your skin because it's believable. You see how he selects his next target, follows her, and then, boom, she meets her boyfriend. He leaves immediately, without a flinch. Pure, cold psycho and terrifyingly realistic. It's psychological, it's disturbing, and it lingers. The perfect mix to earn a high spot in any disturbing movies countdown. Number 7. Cannibal Holocaust, 1980. Starting with this one, our list takes a much darker turn. From here on, the films get heavier, more uncomfortable, and not for the faint of heart. So buckle up. When it was first released, audiences were stunned and horrified. Presented as a found footage documentary, the movie follows a rescue team investigating a missing crew deep in the Amazon. What they discover on the filmmakers' recovered tapes is shocking beyond imagination. Staged murders, extreme violence, and incredibly realistic gore that made people genuinely believe the deaths were real. Authorities even charged director Ruggero Deodato with murder until he had to prove in court that the actors survived. The film isn't just shocking for the human brutality. Scenes of animal killings, though now widely criticized, added to the sense of realism and pushed viewers to confront the very limits of what cinema could show. Beyond the horror, it's a dark commentary on colonialism, exploitation, and the media's obsession with sensationalism, making it one of the most disturbing, controversial, and unforgettable films of the 20th century. Number 6. Salo, or The 120 Days of Sodom, 1975. Honestly, I've never been able to fully enjoy this one. To me, it feels almost overstuffed with cruelty and grotesque acts. Too much, too fast, constantly hammering the viewer with human depravity. And yet, it's impossible to deny its status. Salo is a cult classic for a reason. Based on the Marquis de Sade, but set in fascist Italy, the film follows 4 corrupt officials who abduct a group of teenagers and subject them to systematic abuse over 120 days. Every game they create, physical, sexual, or psychological, is carefully structured to display power, domination, and the dehumanizing nature of totalitarian control. The cruelty is clinical, almost mechanical, making it feel disturbingly real. What makes it stand out isn't gore for the sake of gore, but the way Pasolini uses horror to comment on fascism, corruption, and human nature. The acts are terrifyingly methodical, cold, and relentless, showing that organized evil doesn't need drama or music to terrify. Even if the film feels overwhelming, it's impossible to ignore the craft behind its deliberate, chilling presentation. So yeah, I can't say I like it, but Salo deserves its place in the history of disturbing cinema. It's infamous, intense, and unflinching, a work that challenges the limits of what a film can show and what a viewer can endure. Number 5. Begotten, 1990. Now things get truly abstract, almost like stepping into a nightmare you can't wake from. Begotten isn't just a movie, it's an experience. Shot entirely in grainy black and white, high contrast, with no dialogue, it feels like a silent, primordial ritual captured on film. Every frame looks decayed, torn, and grotesque, as if the celluloid itself has been infected with the story it's telling. The film depicts mythic, allegorical scenes of creation, death, and rebirth, a world where humans are barely recognizable and violence is primal, ritualistic, and horrifyingly intimate. Watching it, you feel the weight of despair, suffering, and mortality in every movement. There's no conventional narrative, no music to guide your emotions, just raw, haunting imagery that lodges itself in your mind long after the screen goes black. It's not a movie for everyone, and I'll be honest, it's exhausting, disorienting, and deeply unsettling. But that's exactly why it earns its place on this list. Number 4. Come and See, 1985. Come and See isn't just a war movie. It's a relentless plunge into the heart of human terror and destruction. We follow a young Belarusian boy, Floria, who eagerly joins a partisan unit, thinking he's about to embark on a heroic adventure. But almost immediately, he is confronted with the true horror of war. Villages burned to the ground, innocent civilians executed in front of him, and a daily flood of new horrors and despair. The story takes the audience through a relentless chain of destruction and violence, showing the boy's transformation from an innocent child into someone hardened by witnessing unimaginable brutality. This journey makes the film psychologically intense. You feel the fear and terror alongside each character. The film is considered a cult classic and is internationally acclaimed for its realism and artistic power. While it didn't win an Oscar, it consistently appears on lists of the greatest anti-war films ever made. It's often called one of the scariest films of the 20th century, not because of monsters or gore, but because the horror comes from humans themselves and the atrocities they commit. Director Elim Klimov uses long, unbroken takes, almost no music, and stark images of destroyed villages and exhausted people to heighten the sense of immersion. Every frame feels almost documentary-like, making the suffering and chaos utterly believable. Unsee lingers in your mind long after viewing, a chilling reminder that the worst horrors are real. Number 3. Faces of Death, 1978. I had to include Faces of Death on this list because, whether you like it or not, this film changed the game. Before it, most people thought disturbing movies meant fictional violence, special effects, or exploitation cinema. Faces of Death crossed a line, or at least made the audience believe it did. When it was released in 1978, many viewers genuinely thought what they were watching was real. Not a movie, not effects. Real deaths, real accidents, real footage of people dying. That alone makes it historically disturbing. There had never been anything like it presented to mainstream audiences before. The film presents itself as a documentary, mixing narration with shocking imagery. Accidents, executions, autopsies, and scenes of death from different cultures around the world. Yes, some moments were staged, we know that now. But back then, the line between reality and fabrication was almost impossible to see. And that uncertainty made the experience far more disturbing than pure gore ever could. There are films that go further. Traces of Death is far more extreme. But Faces of Death was the first. It opened the door. It normalized the idea that death itself could be shown, examined, and consumed on screen. What's often overlooked is that the film isn't just shock for shock's sake. The creators framed it as an exploration of how different cultures perceive death, whether it's feared, ritualized, accepted, or even normalized. The underlying idea is simple but unsettling. Death is universal, yet every society treats it differently. Watching it forces you to confront not just death itself, but your own reaction to it. Men Behind the Sun, 1988. I have to warn you, this is one of the most brutally disturbing films on the list. I chose Men Behind the Sun because it doesn't just shock you for the sake of shock. It forces you to face a horrifying slice of real history. Many films shy away from showing the raw, grotesque details of human cruelty, but this one dives straight in. The film is set during World War II and centers on the infamous Unit 731, a secret Japanese research unit that conducted deadly experiments on prisoners of war. What makes it truly harrowing isn't just the violence itself, but the cold, clinical way it's presented. You see human beings treated like lab specimens, subjected to freezing, vivisection, and biological experiments, all under the guise of science. It's almost unbearable to watch, but that's the point. Unlike fictional horrors, this is based on documented atrocities, making the terror feel real, immediate, and uncomfortably intimate. The film is meticulous in showing the systematic, bureaucratic nature of cruelty, the ordinary men who carried out extraordinary evil. I put this at number 2 because it represents a level of horror that goes beyond gore. It's moral, psychological, and historical terror all in one. Number 1. Threads, 1984. I put Threads at number 1 because, honestly, this film feels more relevant with every passing year. The world doesn't feel stable anymore. Tensions are real, conflicts are real, and nuclear war no longer feels like some distant Cold War fantasy. And Threads is terrifying precisely because it shows what happens when that line is finally crossed. Unlike most films on this list, Threads doesn't rely on shock, gore, or spectacle. Its horror comes from realism. It starts with ordinary life in Sheffield, England, people worrying about work, relationships, exams, small everyday problems. Life feels normal, and that normality makes what comes next even more horrifying. When nuclear war breaks out, the film doesn't sensationalize it. It dissects it. Step by step, we watch society collapse. Communication fails, hospitals are overwhelmed, food and clean water disappear, radiation spreads silently. There are no heroes here, no victory, just survival turning into suffering, and suffering turning into something worse. The film makes one thing painfully clear. In a nuclear war, there are no winners. What makes Threads so disturbing is that it treats nuclear weapons not as abstract threats, but as tools that can be used. If such weapons exist, they don't stay theoretical forever, and once they are used, there is no fixing what follows. The damage isn't just physical, it's generational, psychological, and permanent. As a companion piece to Threads, I also recommend watching Protect and Survive, a real British public information short created to prepare civilians for a nuclear attack. Seen on its own, it's already unsettling. Calm voices, confident instructions, a reassuring tone. But after Threads, it becomes genuinely chilling. Those neat guidelines feel painfully inadequate against the scale of destruction the film lays bare. Together, Threads and Protect and Survive expose a terrifying truth. Preparation does not equal protection. You can give instructions, build shelters, issue pamphlets, but once nuclear weapons are used, control is an illusion. This is why Threads earns the #1 spot. It's not just a disturbing movie, it's a warning. A reminder that nuclear war isn't a game, not politics, not strategy. It's the end of everything we recognize as society. And that's exactly why this film still matters, maybe now more than ever. And before you write in the comments whether this list was amazing or a complete piece of garbage, I just want to wish you a happy new year. No matter what, you're still here. You're walking your own path, creating, observing, loving, hating, and most importantly, you're alive and still moving forward. Be yourself, but never be afraid to change when life pushes you to. I also want to say thank you. Because of you, a video that once had just one view about a strange, uncomfortable, and partly forbidden topic has now almost reached 200 views. And we're growing. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. It really helps the channel more than you think. All right, I won't drag this out. Happy New Year and see you in the next one.